Welcome back to Crowned Black Heroes, where we uncover the extraordinary stories of brilliance that changed our world, but were hidden in the shadows of history. Today, I'm going to tell you about a black woman whose mathematical genius was so precise, so extraordinary, that when America's most famous astronaut was about to launch into orbit, when his life hung in the balance and the entire world was watching, he refused to go unless this woman personally checked the numbers. Not the engineers, not the new IBM computers. Her, a black woman working in a segregated office in the Jim Crow South. Her calculations would put Americans in space, bring them safely home, and eventually land human beings on the moon. But for decades, almost nobody knew her name. This is the story of Katherine Johnson, the mathematical genius who did the impossible math that made space travel possible, and how America tried to forget she ever existed. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because we bring you these powerful untold stories every single week. And if this story amazes you, if it makes you realize how much history has been hidden from you, smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think. Now, let me tell you about the woman whose mind was so brilliant that it literally reached the stars. We begin in 1918 in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, a small town in the Appalachian Mountains. Katherine Coleman, who will later become Katherine Johnson, is born into a world of strict racial segregation and limited opportunities for black Americans. Her father, Joshua Coleman, works multiple jobs including as a farmer, a handyman, and a lumberman. Her mother, Joylette, is a former teacher. The Coleman family is not wealthy, not by any stretch, but they have something that proves more valuable than money: an absolute commitment to education and in recognition of Katherine's extraordinary gift. Because from the moment Katherine can talk, it's clear that this child is different. By age 4, Katherine is counting everything. Not just counting to 10 or 20 like most children, but counting everything she sees, every step she takes, every dish she washes, every star in the sky. Her mind is constantly working, constantly calculating, constantly trying to understand the mathematical relationships that govern the world around her. By the time she enters elementary school, Katherine is already working at a level far beyond her peers. She skips multiple grades, her teachers recognizing that keeping her with children her own age would be holding her back from her potential. But here's the problem. Katherine is a black girl in West Virginia in the 1920s and 30s. The public schools in her county provide education for black children only through 8th grade. After that, nothing. If Katherine wants to continue her education, if she wants to develop her extraordinary mathematical gift, her family will have to find a way around the brutal system of segregation, designed specifically to prevent black children from achieving their potential. So Joshua Coleman makes a decision that requires enormous sacrifice. Every year when Katherine finishes the limited schooling available in White Sulphur Springs, Joshua moves the entire family 120 miles away to Institute, West Virginia, where West Virginia State College has a high school that accepts black students. Joshua stays behind for work, visiting his family on weekends, effectively living apart from his wife and children for most of the year so that Katherine and her siblings can get an education. Think about that sacrifice. A father working multiple jobs, living alone, separated from his family. Also, his daughter can go to high school. This is what black families had to do in Jim Crow America just to access the education that white children received as a matter of course. Katherine thrives in high school, taking every mathematics and science course available. Her teachers recognize that they're working with a once-in-a-generation mathematical mind. At age 15, still just a teenager, Katherine enrolls in West Virginia State College. 15 years old and already in college. Not because of any special program or because standards were lower, but because her mind works at a level that makes traditional age-based education inadequate. At West Virginia State, Katherine encounters professors who recognize her gifts and push her to develop them. One professor in particular, a mathematician named William Waldron Schieffelin Claytor, becomes her mentor. Claytor is the third black person in America to earn a PhD in mathematics, which tells you something about how rare and difficult it was for black people to advance in mathematical fields. Claytor sees in Catherine a mathematical ability that surpasses most professional mathematicians. He creates advanced mathematics courses specifically for Catherine because the existing curriculum isn't challenging enough. He's preparing her for a career in mathematical research, though both of them know that opportunities for black women in mathematics are virtually non-existent in 1930s America. Catherine graduates summa cum laude from West Virginia State in 1937 at age 18 with degrees in mathematics and French. She's 18 years old with a college degree and mathematical skills that rival professional mathematicians twice her age. But now what? What does a brilliant young black woman do with a mathematics degree in 1937 in America? The answer is depressingly limited. She can't work at most universities because they don't hire black faculty. She can't work at most private companies because they don't hire black people for professional positions. Her options are essentially limited to teaching at black schools. So that's what Catherine does. She becomes a teacher at a black public school in Marion, Virginia, teaching mathematics and French. She's excellent at it, inspiring and challenging her students, but part of her mind must wonder what else she might accomplish if given the opportunity. In 1939, Catherine marries James Goebel, and they start a family. Over the next few years, Catherine has 3 daughters, Joylette, Catherine, and Constance. She continues teaching while raising her children, balancing the demands of motherhood with her work. For many women, that would be a full life, a complete story. But Catherine's story is just beginning. In 1952, a family gathering changes everything. Catherine is talking with a relative who mentions that the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, which will later become NASA, is hiring mathematicians at their facility in Hampton, Virginia. Not just any mathematicians, but specifically, they're hiring women to work as human computers. In the days before electronic computers became powerful and reliable, complex mathematical calculations were done by people, and these people were called computers. The NACA, recognizing that women could be paid less than men for the same work, and that many women with strong mathematical skills were available because other career paths were close to them, had hired groups of women to perform the tedious, complex calculations necessary for aeronautical research. And because this is 1952 in Virginia, the heart of the segregated South, the NACA maintains separate computing pools. White women work in one area, black women work in another, called the West Area Computing Section. The facilities are segregated, the bathrooms are segregated, the cafeterias are segregated, but they are hiring black women with strong mathematical skills, and Catherine Johnson's skills are extraordinary. In 1953, Catherine applies for and receives a position at the Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia. She's 34 years old, a wife and mother of 3, starting a new career in a field where black women are barely tolerated and certainly not expected to excel. Catherine's first assignment is to the West Area Computing Section, the segregated pool of black women who perform calculations for the white male engineers. The work environment is precisely what you would expect in 1950s Virginia. There are white bathrooms and colored bathrooms. White women work in the main building while black women are relegated to separate spaces. Black computers are not allowed in the same spaces as white staff, except when absolutely necessary for work. They're expected to be invisible, to do their calculations accurately and quickly, and to never question or challenge the engineers who assign them work. But Catherine Johnson is not someone who accepts limitations easily. From her first days at Langley, Catherine demonstrates that she's not just a calculator following instructions, but a mathematician who understands the underlying principles of the work. When engineers give her calculations to perform, she doesn't just compute the numbers. She asks questions. Why are we using this approach? What are we trying to determine? Have you considered this alternative method? Her questions make some of the white male engineers uncomfortable. They're not used to the computers, especially the black women computers, questioning their work or suggesting improvements. But Catherine's Questions also reveal that she often understands the mathematics better than the engineers who are supposed to be supervising her. 2 weeks into her assignment at the West Area Computing Section, Catherine is temporarily assigned to help an all-male flight research team. Temporary turns into permanent because once the team works with Catherine, they realize they have a mathematical genius on their hands. She's not just performing calculations, she's understanding complex aerodynamics, orbital mechanics, and spacecraft trajectory mathematics at a level that allows her to contribute to the actual research, not just compute numbers someone else has formulated. This is extraordinary for any computer, but for a black woman in the 1950s, it's almost unthinkable. Catherine is breaking barriers simply by being so undeniably brilliant that the white male engineers have to acknowledge her capabilities. But the segregation remains. Catherine's office might be integrated, but she still has to walk half a mile across the Langley campus to use the colored bathroom, because black women are not allowed to use the bathrooms near her office. Every time nature calls, Catherine has to leave her work, walk a half mile in Virginia heat or cold or rain, use the segregated bathroom, and walk back. This goes on for months until finally, Catherine decides she's had enough. She starts using the white women's bathroom closest to her office. When questioned about it, her response is brilliantly simple. I can't work efficiently if I have to walk half a mile every time I need to use the restroom, and the work is too important to let that interfere. What are they going to do? Fire the mathematician who's become essential to their research? They grumble, but Catherine keeps using the closest bathroom, quietly desegregating one small corner of Langley through sheer practical necessity and force of will. By the late 1950s, the space race is heating up. The Soviet Union launched Sputnik in 1957, shocking America and creating a sense of national emergency. America is losing the space race, and the implications are not just about scientific pride, but about national security and global prestige during the Cold War. In 1958, the NACA becomes NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, with an explicit mission to catch up to and surpass the Soviet space program. Katherine Johnson is assigned to the Space Task Group, the team responsible for America's human spaceflight program. She's one of the few women and the only black woman in the group. The pressure is enormous. America needs to put a human being into space, and they need to do it safely. The mathematics involved are incredibly complex. You're calculating trajectories for a spacecraft that will leave Earth's atmosphere, orbit the planet, or travel through space, and then return to Earth, all while dealing with gravitational forces, atmospheric drag, orbital mechanics, and 1,000 other variables. Get the math wrong by even a tiny amount and the astronaut dies, either burning up on re-entry or floating off into space, never to return. No pressure at all, right? Catherine becomes essential to the Mercury program, America's first human spaceflight program. She's calculating launch windows, trajectories, and emergency backup procedures. Her work is meticulous, checking and rechecking every calculation because she knows that a human life depends on her accuracy. In 1961, Alan Shepard becomes the first American in space, completing a 15-minute suborbital flight. Katherine Johnson calculated the trajectory for that flight. Her mathematics put the first American into space. This should be front-page news. This should make Katherine Johnson famous, but it doesn't. The astronauts are celebrated as heroes, which they are. The white male engineers and project directors are recognized for their contributions. But the mathematicians, especially the black women mathematicians doing the complex calculations that make everything possible, remain invisible. Catherine is fine with this, at least at first. She's not doing this work for recognition. She's doing it because it's fascinating, because it's important, because she loves mathematics, and this is the most challenging, consequential mathematics anyone has ever attempted. But the invisibility still stings, because it reflects the broader truth that black contributions to American achievement are systematically erased or minimized. Then comes 1962. And this is where Katherine Johnson's story reaches its most dramatic moment. John Glenn is preparing to become the first American to orbit the Earth. The Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin has already orbited Earth the previous year, so America is once again playing catch-up. Glenn's mission, Friendship 7, is crucial for American prestige and for the space program's future. But there's a problem. NASA has recently started using IBM electronic computers to calculate orbital trajectories. These computers are faster than human mathematicians and less prone to simple arithmetic errors. But they're also new, and the programs are written by people, which means they can have bugs or errors. And for a mission as critical as Glenn's orbital flight, no one wants to bet an astronaut's life on a computer program that might have errors. The trajectory calculations for Glenn's mission are incredibly complex. The spacecraft has to launch at precisely the right moment, enter orbit at precisely the right altitude and velocity, complete 3 orbits of the Earth, and then fire its retro rockets at exactly the right moment to leave orbit and begin re-entry. Fire the rockets too early or too late, and Glenn might re-enter over the wrong part of the Earth, landing in a remote ocean where rescue would be impossible, where he might re-enter at the wrong angle and burn up in the atmosphere. The margin for error is razor thin, and everyone knows it. John Glenn, who is not a mathematician but who is a very intelligent man and a very careful astronaut, looks at the computer calculations and says something that will change Katherine Johnson's life and secure her place in history. Glenn says, and this is documented, he says get the girl to check the numbers. If she says the numbers are good, I'm ready to go. The girl. He's talking about Katherine Johnson. John Glenn, America's hero, astronaut, the man whose face is on the cover of every magazine, the man who is about to risk his life orbiting the Earth, refuses to trust the computer. He wants Katherine Johnson, the black woman mathematician whose genius has become legendary among the astronauts and engineers, even if the public has never heard her name. He wants her to manually check every calculation the computer has made. Think about what this means. The most important spaceflight in American history at that moment, with the world watching, with the Cold War hanging in the balance, and the astronaut says, I trust this black woman's mathematical abilities more than I trust the most advanced computers available. Katherine sits down with the computer's numbers and does what she's been doing her entire career. She calculates. For a day and a half, Katherine Johnson works through the complex orbital mechanics, calculating and recalculating the trajectory, checking every number, every equation, every variable. The computer has calculated that if the spacecraft launches at a specific time, it will complete its orbits and can fire its retro rockets at a specific point to begin re-entry and land in the Atlantic Ocean, where Navy ships will be waiting to recover Glenn. Katherine checks all of it, working by hand with mechanical calculating machines, doing mathematics that most people cannot even begin to understand. Finally, Katherine completes her work. She's checked every calculation. The computer got it right. The numbers are good. She reports this to the mission directors. Glenn is informed that Katherine Johnson has verified the numbers. He says, okay, I'm ready to fly. On February 20th, 1962, John Glenn launches aboard Friendship 7. He orbits the Earth 3 times, exactly as planned. The retro rockets fire at exactly the right moment. Glenn re-enters the atmosphere, his capsule heating to thousands of degrees, but holding together. He splashes down in the Atlantic Ocean, right where Katherine's calculations said he would. The mission is a complete success. America has caught up to the Soviet Union in the space race. John Glenn becomes an instant national hero, one of the most famous Americans alive. President Kennedy congratulates him. He's given ticker tape parades. His face is everywhere. And Katherine Johnson goes back to her desk at Langley to work on the next set of calculations. No parade for her. No presidential congratulations. No magazine covers. Just the satisfaction of knowing that she did the impossible math that made the impossible mission possible. But here's the thing. The astronauts know. The engineers know. Inside NASA, Katherine Johnson's reputation is now unassailable. She's the mathematician that John Glenn trusted with his life. She's proven that her abilities exceed those of the most advanced computers. From this point forward, Catherine is assigned to the most critical, most complex missions. When NASA begins planning the Apollo program, the missions that will land humans on the moon, Catherine Johnson is brought in to calculate trajectories. The mathematics for a moon mission make the orbital calculations for Glenn's flight look simple by comparison. You have to launch from Earth, travel to the moon while dealing with the gravitational pull of both Earth and moon, enter lunar orbit, send a lander down to the moon's surface, launch the lander back from the moon to rejoin the command module in orbit, and then calculate the trajectory back to Earth, all while the moon is moving in its orbit around Earth and Earth is rotating on its axis. The number of variables is astronomical, pun intended. Catherine works on calculating the trajectory for Apollo 11, the mission that will land Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on the moon. Her calculations are essential to ensuring that the spacecraft can make the journey safely and return home. On July 20th, 1969, when Neil Armstrong steps onto the lunar surface and says that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, Catherine Johnson is watching on television like millions of other Americans. But unlike those millions of other Americans, Catherine knows that her mathematics helped make that step possible. Her calculations put those men on the moon and brought them safely home. Catherine continues to work at NASA through the Apollo program, through the Space Shuttle program, contributing to mission after mission. She co-authors scientific papers, breaking more barriers as one of the first women at NASA to have her name on published research. She works on the Earth Resources satellite and on early plans for the Space Shuttle. She doesn't retire until 1986 after 33 years at NASA. 33 years of mathematical brilliance, of breaking barriers, of making the impossible possible. And then, for the most part, she's forgotten. Catherine Johnson retires to Hampton, Virginia, where she lives quietly with her family. Her first husband, James Goebel, had died of a brain tumor in 1956. She remarried in 1959 to James Johnson, a U.S. Army officer and Korean War veteran. She spends her retirement years with family, with her daughters and grandchildren, living a quiet life. The world has moved on. The space program that she helped build continues, but new generations of engineers and mathematicians don't know her name. The history books discussing the space race mention the astronauts, mention the project directors like Wernher von Braun, mention Presidents Kennedy and Johnson who championed the space program. But Catherine Johnson? Forgotten. The black woman whose calculations made it all possible. Erased from the narrative. This erasure continues for decades. Textbooks are published about the space race without mentioning Catherine Johnson. Documentaries are made about Apollo 11 without acknowledging her contributions. The narrative of the space race becomes one of American ingenuity and courage, embodied by white male astronauts and engineers, with no mention of the black women mathematicians working in segregated offices whose calculations were essential to every mission. It's not until 2015, more than 50 years after she calculated John Glenn's orbital trajectory, that Catherine Johnson begins to receive the recognition she deserves. Margot Lee Shetterly publishes a book called Hidden Figures: The American Dream, and The Untold Story of the Black Women Mathematicians Who Helped Win the Space Race. The book tells the stories of Catherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mary Jackson, and other black women who worked at NASA during the space race. It becomes a bestseller. People are shocked. They had no idea that black women played such crucial roles in the space program. They had no idea that NASA was segregated. They had no idea that some of the most important calculations in American space history were done by black women working in separate offices, using separate bathrooms, eating in separate cafeterias, treated as second-class citizens while doing first-class genius mathematics. In November 2015, President Barack Obama awards Catherine Johnson the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Catherine is 97 years old. She's lived long enough to see her contributions finally publicly recognized. The ceremony is emotional. President Obama speaks about Catherine's brilliance, her courage, and her critical contributions to the space program. Catherine, in her late 90s, is gracious and humble, saying she was just doing her job, just doing what she loved. But everyone watching understands that this is about more than one woman's achievement. This is about acknowledging a truth that had been hidden for too long. Black women were essential to America's greatest technological achievement of the 20th century. Their brilliance made the space race possible, and for decades, America refused to acknowledge this truth because it complicated the narrative of American exceptionalism, because it challenged racial and gender hierarchies, because it forced people to confront the reality that genius and capability have nothing to do with race or gender and everything to do with opportunity and recognition. In 2016, a movie adaptation of Hidden Figures is released, starring Taraji P. Henson as Katherine Johnson. The movie is a massive commercial and critical success, nominated for Academy Awards, including Best Picture. Millions of people around the world learn Catherine's story. They see her calculating trajectories by hand. They see her dealing with segregation and discrimination. They see John Glenn asking for her to check the numbers. They see her brilliance finally recognized. Katherine Johnson, now 98 years old, attends the movie premiere and the Academy Awards ceremony. She's celebrated as a living legend. Schools are named after her. NASA dedicates buildings in her honor. She receives honorary doctorates from multiple universities. The recognition that should have come in 1962 is finally arriving more than 50 years late. Catherine lives to see all of this. She lives to see her story taught in schools. She lives to see young black girls look up to her as a role model. See her and think, maybe I can be a mathematician too. Maybe I can work at NASA too. Maybe I can send people to Mars. Katherine Johnson dies on February 24th, 2020, at the age of 101. Her death is front-page news. NASA releases a statement celebrating her life and contributions. The nation mourns the loss of a genuine hero and pioneer. But here's the question that Katherine Johnson's story forces us to confront. How many other Katherine Johnsons were there? How many other black women and men with extraordinary mathematical and scientific abilities never got the opportunity to develop their gifts because segregation and discrimination closed doors that should have been open? How many potential geniuses spent their lives as sharecroppers or domestic workers or in menial jobs because the system refused to recognize their humanity, much less their brilliance? Katherine Johnson was extraordinary, yes, but she was also extraordinarily lucky. Lucky that her father sacrificed to get her education. Lucky that she lived long enough to benefit from NASA's decision to hire black women mathematicians, even if they segregated them. Lucky that her abilities were so undeniable that even racist and sexist barriers couldn't completely suppress them. But how many black people were just as brilliant as Katherine, but weren't lucky? How many never got the education, never got the opportunity, never got the chance to show what they could do? That's what segregation and discrimination stole from America. Not just the dignity and opportunities of the people directly affected, though that alone is an incalculable moral crime, but also the contributions they might have made. How much further might America's space program have advanced if Katherine Johnson had been recognized and promoted based purely on her abilities from the beginning? How many scientific breakthroughs did America miss because potential geniuses were denied education and opportunity based on their race or gender? And here's the uncomfortable present-day truth. While legal segregation has ended, while NASA and other institutions are no longer explicitly segregated by race, barriers still exist. Black students are still less likely to have access to advanced mathematics and science education. Black professionals in STEM fields still face discrimination and are still underrepresented, especially in leadership positions. We've made progress since Katherine Johnson's era, but we haven't completed the journey. Her story is inspiring, yes, but it should also be challenging. It should make us ask what we're still missing. What genius is still being suppressed by systemic barriers? What Katherine Johnsons of today are not getting the opportunities they deserve? Katherine herself was asked, late in her life, what she wanted her legacy to be. She said she hoped that her story would inspire young people, especially young women and people of color, to pursue STEM careers. She hoped that by showing what she accomplished despite all the barriers she faced, others would be encouraged to pursue their own dreams and not let obstacles stop them. But she also said, and this is crucial, she hoped that her story would remind people that barriers should never have existed in the first place. We shouldn't celebrate her for overcoming segregation. We should be ashamed that she had to overcome it. We shouldn't just admire her individual triumph. We should commit to creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to develop and contribute their talents, regardless of race, gender, or any other irrelevant characteristic. That's the real lesson of Katherine Johnson's life. Not just that she was brilliant, though she was. Not just that she overcame obstacles, though she did. But that a society that creates obstacles based on race or gender is a society that's shooting itself in the foot, suppressing its own potential, wasting its own genius. Every barrier placed in Katherine Johnson's path didn't just harm her, it harmed America. It slowed scientific progress. It made space missions more dangerous because they didn't have full access to her abilities early in her career. Every time discrimination prevents someone from contributing their talents, everyone loses. That's not just a moral argument, though it is that. It's a practical argument. A society that wants to achieve great things, that wants to land on the moon, or cure cancer, or solve climate change, or address any other massive challenge, needs all the genius it can get. It can't afford to waste talent based on bigotry. Katherine Johnson's mind was a national treasure, but for much of her career, America treated her as a second-class citizen, segregating her, underpaying her, refusing to put her name on her own work, denying her recognition and opportunities she had earned. America was lucky that Katherine was so brilliant and determined that she contributed her genius anyway. But we can't count on that luck. We have to build systems that actively seek out and develop talent wherever it exists, that remove barriers rather than erecting them, that judge people by their abilities rather than their demographics. Before I close, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you're Katherine Johnson, and it's 1962. You're sitting at your desk, calculating the trajectory that will determine whether John Glenn lives or dies, whether America succeeds or fails in the space race. You're doing mathematics that stretches the limits of human capability. You know that if you make even the smallest error, a man dies and your country's space program suffers a devastating setback. And you're doing all of this while dealing with segregation, while walking half a mile to use the colored bathroom, while being paid less than the white male engineers whose work you're checking, while knowing that even if this mission succeeds, you probably won't get any credit. What would you do? Would you still give everything you have to get the math right? Katherine Johnson did. She gave everything she had, not for recognition or reward, but because the work mattered, because it was fascinating, because she loved mathematics, and because she understood that her contributions, even if unrecognized, were essential. That's heroism. That's excellence. That's dedication that goes beyond any expectation or requirement. Katherine Johnson didn't just put Americans in space and on the moon. She showed us what human capability looks like when given the chance. She proved that genius has no color, no gender, no demographic boundaries. She demonstrated that the only thing that matters is ability, opportunity, and the determination to contribute your gifts to something larger than yourself. If this story inspired you, if it made you angry that Katherine Johnson's contributions were hidden for so long, if it made you want to learn more about the hidden figures whose brilliance changed history, then I need you to act right now. Hit that like button to help this video reach more people who need to hear Katherine's story. Subscribe to Crown Black Heroes and turn on notifications, because every week, we bring you these powerful stories of Black excellence that shaped our world. And drop a comment below. Tell me what you think about Katherine Johnson's incredible life. Did you know her story before the movie came out? What other Black scientists and mathematicians do you think deserve recognition? How do we make sure that future generations of Black, Girls see themselves reflected in STEM fields? Let's build a community dedicated to uncovering and celebrating these essential truths. Share this video everywhere. Make sure Katherine Johnson's name is known by everyone, not just during Black History Month, but as a permanent part of the story of human achievement. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for caring about truth and for honoring the legacy of a genuine genius and hero. Katherine Johnson's calculations reached the moon, but her impact reaches far beyond that. She changed what's possible for Black women in science. She proved that brilliance and determination can overcome even the most unjust barriers. She showed us that the path to the stars was built by Black women whose names were hidden, but whose contributions were essential. Share her story, honor her legacy, teach her name to the next generation, and join me next time as we uncover another incredible story of Black excellence that history tried to erase. Until then, keep reaching for the stars, keep fighting for justice, and keep celebrating the hidden geniuses who made our world possible. Peace.